What's good, my man of society? It is your host with the most, Shadow Log, back at you with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and are subscribed to the channel. It's absolutely free. That is how you help my channel get into the algorithm. I highly appreciate if you go ahead and do that. Now, what I wanted to talk about was the misconception. I was asked by one of my subscribers, well, why do I think it's the misconception of why individuals join gangs? Decided to talk about it here because we're going to get into the mentals of things, right? But the misconception of people joining gangs is to profit from them, is to women, money, and etc. Right? But the main focus point is, the money aspect of things, right? Because society is driven by money, so that's why it's so easier to believe that as the answer. But that is actually a false narrative. People don't join gangs to make money. That's not why they do it. But where does that misconception come from? The misconception comes from how society gathers information on something, right? On how they view something. And it's something that's, been happening since, media became a presence within, society. People let the media, however, or whichever form it comes in, whether reading or movies or TV shows, it tends to persuade people's perception on certain things. The reason why, we have stereotypes on everything, why they think that there's a lot of dumb people that live in Florida, or that everybody in Texas is like a cowboy, or that that all Chicanos talk like, blood in, blood out, and etc. Right? But because of movies, TV shows, and everything like that, since people don't interact with these individuals or anything of that matter, right? When it comes to the unknown, taboo, right? It's kind of like when I say the reason why America has this stigma towards Mexicans of why they're criminals and drug traffickers and evil people is because certain states don't have minorities in them, right? So you have a lot of towns and cities within America where you don't see no Hispanics around, right? You could drive and you won't see a Hispanic for a while. So people don't interact with Hispanics. They don't interact with Latinos, Mexicans, however you want to call them, right? So the only information that they can, get to judge these individuals comes from whatever they consume, whatever they see on TV shows, movies, and all of that. And what do Mexicans always play in TV shows and movies is always these criminals, these drug dealers, these gangsters, negative perceptions, right? The news always covers, DUIs, murders, kidnappings. They don't ever cover like, hardworking individuals that are graduating college, that are starting their own businesses, that are looking to, play their part, making America great. They don't focus on none of that. They don't cover none of that. They cover the negative. You get what I'm saying? So people, since they don't know any Hispanics, they could only get their perception on whatever they're seeing, and everything that they're consuming is telling them that these people are bad people, criminals, drug dealers, and all of that. That's why they get this, bad perception about them, right? Same when, people that don't know anybody from California or Florida, and they think that they behave in a certain way, and it turns out that it's not true. Or certain countries, right? The stigma, and every place has them, including the gangster world. So people got their ideas from movies. These individuals are all about making money, and this is what's fueling the whole entire joining gangs and all of that, because in movies, that's the main goal. That's always the focus point, because it's a movie script. That's it's got to have a plot to it. So you get me? That makes it a whole lot easier believing that is actually the source of the problems, instead of diving into what is actually the problems, right? Because nobody wants to watch anything, that has to do with that kind of stuff, right? Especially when we're talking about, emotions, but truth of the matter is that's what fuels the lifestyle. These individuals make these choices based off of emotions, neglect, trauma. That is the reason why they seek the streets. That is the reason why they join these gangs. It's not because they're looking to make money. You get what I mean? You have a lot of young individuals who have a lot of anger, who don't know how to express themselves, who can't comprehend or, you know, understand the situation that they're in, right? The predicaments that they're put in, the stress of it all. So, you know, this is kind of like the escape route. That is the reason why they join gangs. So it's not to make money. You get what I'm saying? But, you know, the mainstream media always pushes that, right? Especially when you see these gangs that get, you know, indicted, you see them get rounded up, and it has to do with money and guns and illegal narcotic sales. Certain individuals indulge in that behavior, right? Uh, or making money in that way. But now, if you have 200 members or 300 members in that gang, and 20 of them are involved in these sales of drugs and illegal activity, and now they get arrested, could people say that the main objective of the gang is because they're looking to make money if only less than half of that gang is actually indulging in that behavior or involved in that behavior? A majority of homies ain't selling drugs or making money like that. Majority of homies ain't involved in none of that kind of stuff. Very few are. If you have 20 individuals, out of those 20, maybe only one of them is selling drugs and making money. The rest of them are causing chaos. Now, there's a difference between mobsters and gangsters, street thugs, right? You have mob individuals who conduct illegal businesses and are indulge in the money scheme of things, right? But when you're talking about street individuals, their main objective is causing chaos, writing on walls, robbing people, beating up people, causing mayhem. But you see, when it comes to like the mobs, they're not indulging none of that kind of behavior. Anything that's going to bring them that form of attention, right? Like where the law enforcement, presence, because those gangsters is not the same thing. Those are mobsters, these are gangsters. There's a difference, right? But the movies blurred the lines of, what people consider to be gangster, right? Because that lifestyle and this lifestyle is not the same thing. These individuals don't get tattoos and write on walls and stand on corners and claim property and you get what I'm saying? They don't do none of that kind of stuff. And they don't, acknowledge, any type of, gangs and stuff like that. While these individuals write everywhere, post up, claim territory, bang on everybody and let them know where they're from and proud of it. There's a difference, right? In how they move and in the organizations. So they're not the same thing, right? So people, got the misunderstanding of how these groups work or if they're the same thing or not, right? Or the word gangster in itself. But see, that has nothing to do with this, right? The reason why those individuals become that way is different from this, right? So that's where the misconception comes from, right? Movies, media, and the mainstream media, the narrative they stir, you know, because it's a lot easier to understand that is the reason why, right? Um, the these kids become this way because they must be promising them money or women or some type of stuff in order for them to throw their lives away. Why else would they do it, right? Not understanding the emotional aspects that is attached to this life, right? The trauma. And a lot of people don't want to take accountability for their mistakes, right? Or own up to them, right? So it's so easier to blame the criminals or these gangs, for the reason why these kids become this way, right? But remember, gangs haven't always existed. So what was the reason for the first gang members becoming the way that they became? And could that not be the same thing that has been producing them since, today, right? People have to understand, the psychology behind things, the emotions, because that does play a big factor, when it comes to this kind of decision, you know. But yeah, so people don't join gangs to make money and all of that, right? They finally feel like they belong. They finally feel, you know, family bond and all that. Even though it's all bullshit and you get nothing out of it. At the end of the day, when these individuals join these gangs, that is what they're seeking, and that is what's driving the whole entire um, reasoning for them joining, the gangs. So, because they don't give a fuck whether they live or die. at the age of 12, 11, 13, 14, because that's the age that they join these gangs. You know, you have kids that don't give a fuck whether they go to jail for life or if they lose their life, and now expecting to believe that that's a kid that's coming from a happy home. Come on now. There has to be some problem going on, right? The reason why he's choosing, this. And it's not, love and, support. And that's just the reality of things. But overall, that's just my breakdown. What are your thoughts? Leave it in the comments and shut up. We up.